Well, this is going to be a quick comparison between the new R2 remote and the last generation LCD remote. For those of you who don't like long videos, the summation is don't get rid of your original LCD remote. For those that enjoy more exhaustive reviews, let's go into some of the details about the R2 remote on the ride here, and then we'll go back to the studio and I'll do a little recap of some of the other things about the remote and the redesign that they did. So I'm not going to go into much of the design elements on this ride because we're going to go and deal with that later. So let's get to some of the ride elements. The feel of the thing in the hand is good. I've put about 20 miles on the board with the new remote now, and aside from the remote out of the box trying to kill me, which we'll also get into on the recap back in the studio, once the brake and the throttle were remapped, I really enjoyed how smooth everything is. They've got a lot more throttle to work with. They've got a lot more brake throw to work with. And they used it. They did a great job. It feels pretty good in the hand. After 20 miles here, about the only thing that I could critique on size-wise is that it seems a little small. It seems like they could have made it 5% larger. When I ride, now I'd like to show you my hand position on the thing, but I actually can't, and that we'll go into that in a minute too. When I'm riding, because of the size of my hands, most of the Evolve GT riders are going to be adults. I don't know too many 12 or 14-year-olds that can afford a $2,000 board. So with an adult size hand, I feel like I'm putting almost all of my finger pressure on the very tip of the throttle. That seems to be where it seems the most comfortable. I do the same thing with the brake. It sits a bit further back in my hand. Ergonomically, I mean, they did a good job of it, I think. It fits the hand pretty good. Just it's, I think, designed maybe for a smaller hand, and I have pretty small hands for a guy. That part's pretty good. Again, I really enjoy the mapping of the throttle and the brake. Great job, Evolve. They, like I said, they really used all of the throw. That also gives them an opportunity later to fine-tune it. So, from that aspect, the remote would be something that, with very little design change, they could, change things through firmware as they evolve, as their name says, and because we always learn more from our mistakes than we ever do from our successes. So size-wise, shape-wise, good. Could be a little larger. So now, with the control elements kind of out of the way, let's get to one of the really crazy things about it, and that is the range of the remote. And so now I'm noticing a couple of different things about the range. First is my initial thought when I was experiencing some of the range problems with the remote, I was thinking, oh, that sucks, because one of the things that I do quite often is what I refer to as walking the dog. If you're in a park someplace, you you know, you're a little ways away from the sidewalk. If you have street wheels on, you're not going to jump on it on the grass. And so you just kind of kick the board and point it in the right direction, and then you walk behind it. And I thought, oh, that sucks. You know, if this thing can't even handle being more than a meter away from the board, you know, that's gonna be a bummer. Well, so then over the course of the day, I was walking the dog just fine, 6-8 feet behind the board. So then I'm starting to think, ooh, okay, well, let's think about this. Maybe it's more of a positional thing, the orientation of the antenna. Maybe the orientation of the transmitting antenna, maybe that's something that's strange, don't know. So I started to do a couple of tests regarding the orientation of the grip, as well as the distance away. And so let's go ahead and show you that a little bit now. So I've got the remote now down about waist level. And the remote works good down as long as you hold it down. It's I'd say it's adequate as far as the confidence that I have that it's going to be there when I need it for braking or accelerating around a corner. Now, if, however, I bring it up to look at my speed, I better be fast. Because if I hold this thing above waist level for any length of time, it will lose its signal and cut out. So I'm going to show that right now. So now I've just got it at chest level. I'm looking at the, and I'll probably make a liar out of me, but let's see what happens here. So I'm looking at the readout, and there it goes. It's cut out. Okay. So I don't know how long that was. Maybe 5 seconds or something like that. I don't know what the timing is for its signal loss timeout, you know. Obviously the fix for that isn't to extend the length of the timeout. All that means is that it's that much longer before you realize that you don't actually have any control over the board, and that's going to suck. So so that's a problem, and it's a big problem because of one other thing that they did with the new remote. So the new display, they say, oh, it's clearer. I suppose, you know, it's the number of pixels is maybe tighter. I don't know. That I haven't really looked really closely at that. But what I can tell you is it is smaller. It's a smaller display, and so sometimes you get to a point where it doesn't. Especially my age, I'm a fat old fart, and when you get to my age, sometimes your ability to read small print isn't all that good. Now again, that's not Evolve's problem, but it doesn't change the fact that at some point when you make the screen smaller, the resolution doesn't matter. You know, if you can hit it with a magnifying glass and it looks just like an iPhone, it doesn't really much matter if you can't read it to begin with. So they made it so that the screen was smaller. All right, so we'll stop harping on that. So then the other thing that they did was they chose fashion over function. I'm a process engineer by trade, and so I'm probably the last person to ask about making something look nice. I don't really care what it looks like. I need it to perform its function, and I need it performing its function flawlessly. So what they did was they curved the screen. Well, it looks good, but the problem is that when you put a curved lens over a screen, no matter what direction, no matter what angle you hold it to your eye, you get some glare. I'll do this quick because it's going to cut out. So no matter what angle you hold it up, you get some glare. With a flat screen, even though you might have tremendous glare at one specific angle because of a light source, you can rotate your hand slightly and clear the glare. You can't do that with a round screen. So I'm going to have to give them kind of a fail on that, but only really because of the range issue, or rather the angle issue that I'm noticing with the remote. And the reason for that is that in order to see the screen, I have to use my hand to shield it from the glare, or I can't see it. And when I do that, every time I do that, very quickly, board cuts out. So yeah, I'm not going to list the screen portion of the thing as a fail, because obviously that's an annoyance that somebody with good eyes isn't really going to have. But the range thing, that's a problem, because if you're in a long extended corner and you put your hand out to signal or to balance yourself, let's see if it'll go out. Coming up to a corner here, so I don't really like that, but let's see what we got. So it didn't there. It didn't there. So it seems to be holding again. So now let me go ahead and change the angle, and I'm going to bring the angle up so that I can read the screen. And there and cut out. Wow. So interesting. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and pause here, and I'm going to grab the original, or the previous generation LCD, and then let's try a similar thing where we change the angle on that and see if we can get it to replicate. I've never had that issue with the previous version LCD remote. So I'm going to try it, with the remote maybe inverted, or at some other strange angles that I don't usually ever hold that particular remote at, and then we can see what if any differences there are as far as the communications go. So let's go ahead and pause this now, and I'll go ahead and get the other remote back online. Okay, I've repaired the remote, the old version LCD remote with the board. I can say you get used to that. You get used to the new trigger really quick. It's and I do miss it, because this one is a little more touchy, a little more notchy. The trigger and brake that they have on the new remote, really top notch. They did a great job. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and hold this remote in positions that I don't usually hold it. Obviously we probably all spend most of our time with the remote down around our waist. So I'm going to try and hold it up here, see if I can get it to cut out upside down. I can pretty much safely say this is a direction I never hold. Oh, I got a little hiccup. Oh, how about that? How about that? The other remote does it too. How interesting. So now let's get it to recover here. Interesting. So now again, I'm going to hold it in a direct. Oop. Trigger's a little sudden, obviously. So now I'm going to hold it in a direction that I can read the thing above my waist. Yep, and it's fine. This is what I kind of figured it would be. Interesting. Okay, well, I suppose that makes this video worth the price of admission, doesn't it? So the deal seems to be, the problem with the R2 remote seems to be the orientation of the antenna. Interesting, very interesting. And they did say, if you watch the video for their R2 remote, they did say that they reoriented the antenna. I believe it was showing that the entire circuit board package was reoriented down the side of the grip, as opposed to wherever it was in this one. I haven't actually cracked into either one of these remotes. So now what I'm going to do is to kind of verify this, because hey, it's what we do, is I'm going to actually try and hold this lower, but also reorient it so that it's upside down. And so this might be a little tricky to do. So now I've got the remote upside down. I may have to change how I'm gripping this, so I'm not getting the same orientation on the antenna. I have to take this off of my hand and try this again. It's a little tricky. I'm going to wait till I get into a safer area here and get past this roundabout. Okay, let's try that again. Get this off my hand here. Okay, let's try this again here. Oops. Touchy trigger. So now I'm actually holding the remote upside down and operating it with my thumb, but I'm doing it at waist level. Hasn't cut out yet. Okay, so let's try the same thing at chest level. Yep, there it goes. Yeah, interesting. So the get back. Come on, baby. Okay, well, you saw it here first, folks. So what's going on is, if you guys are experiencing a lot of dropouts with the R2 remote, it's due to the orientation of the antenna. It's when you hold the R2 remote in a position that allows you to read the LCD screen, the signal is attenuated, and the remote cuts out. Well, Elon Musk blew up a lot of rockets before he actually got one to land, and so we learn from our mistakes. I don't know whether or not it's not an area of expertise of mine that I've ever looked into as far as how those antennas are set up. Do they have more than one antenna on an iPhone? Is that allowed? Is there, could they use a stronger signal? When I held the remote at waist level at the same orientation, it did not cut out. And so obviously the signal was strong enough to defeat the amount of reduced signal from the transmitter. So let's go back into the studio, and we'll give my little recap of some of the design elements on the R2 remote, as well as maybe giving some final thoughts of what I think about the positioning of the antenna. So Let's go back in.